This is GTV, the leader of the next generation. On November 21st, 1990, Nintendo of Japan entered a new era. This day saw the debut of the new 16-bit Super Famicom, a machine that was a quantum leap forward. Never had a home video game machine had the features that were on the Super Famicom: scaling sprites, rotating backgrounds, orchestrated sound, a massive palette of colors, and a new controller with 6 action buttons. On that first day, only 2 games were available for the Super Famicom, which were equally groundbreaking: F-Zero and Super Mario Bros. 4 Super Mario World. For the first time, Nintendo could truly deliver the adventure for Mario they had always envisioned. And for the player at home, a massive, immersive, unforgettable experience. Leading up to the debut of Super Mario World and the Super Famicom on November 21st, 1990, Nintendo had spent the previous 7 years building an established brand with Family Computer and its library of games. Immediately following the release of Family Computer in July 1983, Nintendo became the market leader of home TV games in Japan, taking a large majority market share. As time moved on, the 8-bit Family Computer started to show its age and began losing its position at the top, with competitors Sega and NEC releasing powerful 16-bit machines of their own. But Nintendo had plans for its own 16-bit games in the pipeline for a long time. The first announcements of a 16-bit machine came in September 1987, when Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi personally announced that a Super Family Computer was in development. At the same time, Nintendo began filing patents and trademarks for this new Super machine. While Nintendo was about to be leapfrogged by their competitors, there was still some life left in the old Family Computer. In 1987, Nintendo hadn't yet released its flagship game, Super Mario Bros. 3, though fans were anxiously waiting. The first major splash of news on both the 8 and 16-bit fronts came in August 1988, as Super Mario Bros. 3 entered its pre-release promotional stage. Coverage in gaming and mainstream press was plentiful in the form of soundtracks and other promotional items. Meanwhile, Nintendo president Yamauchi interviewed with Touch Magazine, discussing at length the upcoming Super Famicom, as well as information about the CPU and the games that were in development, which included Super Mario Bros. 4 and Dragon Quest V. Yamauchi said in this interview that Sony had entered a partnership with Nintendo to produce a custom sound chip for use in the Super Famicom. More details were to come at Shoshinkai, a special event to be held on November 21st and 22nd, 1988. Touch Magazine also featured some news on Super Mario Bros. 3, with Shigeru Miyamoto explaining the finer points of the amazing, soon-to-be-released game. Super Mario Bros. 3 was released in Japan on October 23rd, 1988, becoming a bestseller overnight. As fans across Japan lost themselves in Mario 3, there was a feeling of suspense in the air. The biggest game in the series was now available, and news of Mario 4 was already bubbling over. On November 21st, 1988, Nintendo held the Shoshinkai press conference at its offices in Kyoto, Japan, as promised, showing the world the Super Famicom for the very first time, as well as its new controller and some technical demos in action. On top of that, Nintendo showed off a redesigned Family Computer that resembled the Super Famicom, featuring AV output and detachable controllers, things that the original Family Computer did not have. There was also a demonstration of the 2 units connected together, allowing the Super Famicom to be Family Computer compatible. Furthermore, Nintendo announced a program where consumers could trade in their old 8-bit Family Computer for the new 16-bit Super Famicom. Unfortunately, this machine was never seen again, and the trade-in program also never came to be. While no gameplay was shown of Super Mario Bros. 4 at Shoshinkai 1988, it was the very first game Nintendo mentioned on its list of 16-bit games. At the end of the press conference, it was announced that Nintendo would release the Super Famicom and Super Mario Bros. 4 in July 1989. 1988 came to a close with Super Mario Bros. 3 as the most sought-after game in Japan, while the gaming press and everyone at home eagerly anticipated the next generation. As the calendar turned to 1989, news of Super Mario Bros. 4 was mostly speculation and unconfirmed rumors that never came to be. Nintendo spent the first half of 1989 radio silent, creating a stir within the industry that there were problems behind the scenes involving the development of the Super Famicom. Nintendo held another Shoshinkai on July 28th and 29th, 1989. The event started with a shock announcement. The Super Famicom would be delayed indefinitely. Nintendo, famously secretive about everything they do, did not give an explanation for the delay, but the Japanese game media speculation centered around the industry-wide chip shortage, which had hurt Nintendo and computer manufacturers. The continued success of Family Computer and Super Mario Bros. 3 was also pointed to as another reason to delay. It's possible Nintendo backed off so as not to split their own market share, while buying extra time to perfect the Super Famicom and the games for it. At Shoshinkai 1989, Nintendo demonstrated a further revision of the Super Famicom, with upgraded internal RAM and other features being refined. Games were on display, including a prototype of Pilot Wings called Dragonfly. And, finally, for the first time, Super Mario Bros. 4 was shown in public. The game was given a proper subtitle, Super Mario World, and strongly resembled Super Mario Bros. 3. Most apparent were Mario's raccoon tail and bouncing music blocks. Enemies such as Paragoombas and Koopa Troopers would appear in this demo of Super Mario World, almost identical to the way they were in Super Mario Bros. 3. New gameplay features were shown. Mario climbing fences and running up walls. A larger, more interactive world map, mid-level save points, and a reserve power-up kept on screen were all shown in this demonstration. Exciting as all that was, news of the delay would just create more anticipation. As now, Nintendo officially confirmed its next Mario game was coming, but nobody knew exactly when. Nintendo went back to work, refining the Super Famicom, as gamers waited and waited. The calendar turned to 1990. Nintendo held their cards closely until that year's Shoshinkai, held on August 28th and 29th, 1990. On display, among the new releases for Family Computer and Game Boy, was the finished version of the Super Famicom and Super Mario Bros. 4 Super Mario World, with the release date set for November 21st, 1990. Those who played the game that weekend came away impressed, with positive reviews quoted from attendees, later printed in Japanese gaming magazines. Those first players experienced in Super Mario World a culmination of all prior games, with a large amount of new features, power-ups, surprises, and secrets. Super Mario World began development alongside Super Mario Bros. 3, rather than after the most recent installment was finished, like most games. This gave Super Mario World a feeling similar to Super Mario Bros. 3, yet the 16-bit power of the Super Famicom let the game expand and evolve in directions that Super Mario Bros. 3 could not. Shigeru Miyamoto would serve as producer, as he had for all past Super Mario Bros. Games. In those previous entries, Miyamoto was also the director, but for Super Mario World, those duties were given to Takashi Tezuka, who was part of the design team for all previous Super Mario Bros. Games. The complete staff would comprise 10 people in various roles, with specific designers and programmers assigned to stages, maps, and character animations. Super Mario World first began as a direct port of Super Mario Bros. 3, playable on the Super Famicom. Some improvements were made on the port, but the staff felt that things were too similar to the older game, and so most elements from Mario 3 were removed or replaced to make the newer Super Mario World stand out from the older Super Mario Bros. 3. The graphics would get an overhaul, as the Super Famicom could handle up to 256 colors on screen at once. Everything was made brighter and more colorful. Each stage would be given scrolling backgrounds. Mario could also interact with some of the background layers, something not possible until now. Transitional effects such as scaling and pixelation used the power of the Super Famicom hardware for extra visual appeal. The stages in Super Mario World could scroll in any direction. The larger available memory on the cartridge and in the system allowed for larger stages overall. Some stages were given multiple exits to discover. To help the player, a halfway save point was added, so if you lost a life midway, you didn't have to go all the way back to the beginning. Mario's power-ups were improved upon from Super Mario Bros. 3. In that game, the Super Leaf allowed Mario to fly. The flight ability was retained in Super Mario World, but the power-up was changed into the Cape Feather, letting Mario or Luigi fly like a superhero. On top of the changes in design, the way Mario flies was also improved. Mario can take off, glide, nosedive, and slam right into the ground. Mario could also spin attack, just like he could with the raccoon tail. These changes allowed for much more precision and control over Mario than the player had in Super Mario Bros. 3. Unfortunately, the various power suits Mario wore in Super Mario Bros. 3 were not carried over to Super Mario World. However, there was also the P-Balloon power-up, letting Mario float to the top of some stages. The Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Superstar would remain as a constant, unchanged since the original Super Mario Bros. If Mario acquired more than one power-up, it could be saved at the top of the screen. When the player presses the select button, or if Mario gets hit by an enemy, the power-up will drop down, giving Mario some assistance. The overworld map was redesigned in Super Mario World, with a huge expandable scrolling map, improving over the smaller and more static maps in Super Mario Bros. 3. As Mario and Luigi clear stages on the map, pathways will extend, the landscape will change, and new areas will become open. The map also gives the player clues on how to navigate stages. If the stage has one exit, the marker is denoted with a yellow dot. Or if there are two exits, the marker is denoted with a red dot. The environment on the map where these markers are located will also be reflected in that stage, as a marker could be placed on a castle, underwater, in the forest, or practically anywhere. And finally, the game has a battery backup with 3 save slots, so you don't have to start from the beginning every time you play. While this eliminated the need for warp zones, and warping does not exist in Super Mario World, maneuvering stages with multiple exits in a certain order does allow you to reach advanced stages of the game faster. The Super Famicom was capable of producing 8 simultaneous channels of sound with its own custom sound processor, designed by Sony. The sounds of the Super Famicom were near CD quality and light years ahead of the original family computer. With it, composer Koji Kondo crafted a new soundtrack that would feature multiple arrangements revolving around a single melody, rather than creating a different score for each area. The overworld, underworld, waterworld, and bonus areas all carry the same tune that adds to the theme of each area. Super Mario World featured one new character, Yoshi, a green dinosaur that assists Mario and Luigi. Shigeru Miyamoto had always wanted Mario to ride an animal, like a horse. The origins of a green dinosaur that lays eggs goes back to another Miyamoto-produced game, Devil World, released in 1984. The technical feat was impossible to do on family computer, but was now easy to pull off. Miyamoto has admitted in interviews that he kept a drawing of Mario riding an animal taped to his desk for 5 years prior to Super Mario World, keeping him motivated to make this idea eventually happen. Yoshi is found in many areas in Super Mario World. On occasion, Yoshi is found as a baby and needs to eat to grow to full size. Yoshi is usually green, but is also found in red, blue, and yellow varieties. Each colored Yoshi has a different ability. Red Yoshi can breathe fire after eating a shell. Blue Yoshi can fly, and yellow Yoshi can slam the ground, knocking off nearby enemies. Green Yoshi has no abilities, but by eating a red, blue, or yellow shell, can gain those abilities of the colored Yoshis. There is also a multicolored shell, which gives Yoshi all three abilities at once. The story of Super Mario World takes place immediately following the events of Super Mario Bros. 3. After Mario and Luigi rescued Princess Toadstool and expelled Bowser and the Koopalings from the Mushroom Kingdom, the three felt that some rest and relaxation was in order. They set off for Dinosaur Land, a faraway place known for beautiful beaches and inhabited by friendly dinosaurs. On the beach, Bowser appears and once again kidnaps the princess. While trying to rescue her, Mario and Luigi meet Yoshi, who says that Bowser has trapped all the dinosaurs of Dinosaur Land in eggs, and asks the Mario brothers to help his friends and save Dinosaur Land from Bowser and the Koopalings, while agreeing to help Mario and Luigi rescue Peach. The long wait from those first few mentions 3 years prior was almost over. Nintendo was about to enter the 16-bit race and release Mario's biggest game ever at the same time. On November 21st, 1990, the Super Famicom and Super Mario Bros. 4, Super Mario World, were released in Japan. The racing game F-Zero was also first put on sale that day. The Super Famicom sold for 21,000 yen, Super Mario World for 8,000 yen, and F-Zero for 7,000 yen. 300,000 Super Famicom units were sold on that first day, all of which were gone in a matter of hours. There would not be another shipment for some time. And going into 1991, Super Famicom and Super Mario World were nearly impossible to find on store shelves. The Super Famicom and Super Mario World received heavy press coverage in November 1990. The events of release day were covered by all major TV networks. Photos of the empty store shelves were shown in newspapers the next day. All gaming publications gave intense, in-depth coverage of these events, along with reviews and walkthroughs of Super Mario World. Famitsu Magazine issued the Gold Award to Super Mario World with a score of 34 out of 40. Family Computer Magazine gave the game a score of 25.76 out of 30, with high points attributed to challenge, music, and character design. Along with all the press, Nintendo collaborated in other areas to promote Super Mario World. In 1991, Bandai produced and released a one-episode OVA video cassette titled Mario and Yoshi's Adventureland. The episode, which runs for 30 minutes, follows the story of Super Mario World pretty closely, but is aimed for younger children. The cassette was used in conjunction with the Bandai Telebico toy phone, featuring simple quizzes for kids to answer that allow Mario and Yoshi to advance through the story. Nintendo continued their long-running partnership with Kodansha Media, releasing a series of weekly manga strips that retold the events of Super Mario World in a more mature, humorous manner. The Super Mario World manga strips were then published in book form, creating a 7-part series, the longest of any Casey Mario book sets. Nintendo also cross-promoted with Kirin Beverage and McDonald's soon after the release of Super Mario World, to keep the game's image current and upfront, in case anyone missed all the other news. Super Mario World also had a soundtrack issued as a 2-disc set in conjunction with the release of the game, with one disc featuring jazz arrangements of the music in Super Mario World performed by Sadao Watanabe. The second disc featured all in-game music. From that day, November 21st, 1990, Nintendo entered a new era. The Super Famicom became immensely popular, and soon after, the best-selling 16-bit game machine in Japan, selling 17 million units. Super Mario World would become the second best-selling Super Famicom game in Japan, staying in print over the entire lifespan of the Super Famicom, selling over 3.5 million units. When we come back, the Super Famicom and Super Mario World head to America.
マリオの出番だ。こんにちはこんにちはマリオの国から。
お尻に火がつく面白さスーパーマリオブラザーズ4スーパーファミコンでいよいよデビュー。
マクドナルドのマックスーパーマリオゲーム。マリオが出たらチャンス。話題のファミコンソフトスーパーマリオワールドがあったぞ。
僕と一緒にチャレンジ。
マクドナルド。わあ。よいしょ。1億人の人気者。ザニュー。
In America, just as in Japan, Nintendo dominated gaming in the late 1980s. The Nintendo Entertainment System controlled nearly 90% of the TV game market by the end of 1989. And with a strong lineup of titles, Nintendo's future going into the 90s looked promising. By 1989, the NES was now on the shelves for 4 years, and the technology inside was actually older than that. A new generation was on the rise, with 16-bit machines from competitors Sega and NEC. The initial delay of the Super Famicom would also mean that in America, the 16-bit Nintendo would arrive later than everyone else. With the Sega Genesis and NEC TurboGrafx 16 ready to roll, Nintendo fans wondered when their turn would come. The first concrete news in the Western world came not long after word broke out in Japan. In issue 2 of Electronic Gaming Monthly, dated July 1989, America got its first look at the 16-bit Super Famicom and word that Super Mario Bros. 4 would be coming. Someday. Nearly all of it coming directly from sources already published in Japan. The world was a very different place in 1989. There was no internet like we have today, and Nintendo closely guarded what was going on behind closed doors and offered their own version of events through its in-house publication, Nintendo Power. This magazine was the official source for all things Nintendo, straight from the pros. And in 1989, if it wasn't in the pages of Nintendo Power, it didn't happen. As news from Japan came across the ocean like a message in a bottle, Nintendo of America stayed silent, as all other major gaming publications scooped them with photos, specs, and future games. In September 1990, Nintendo delivered a one-page article in issue 16 of Nintendo Power, possibly to correct the record and put rumors to rest. For the first time, Nintendo confirmed that Super Mario Bros. 4 was real. Nintendo was actually behind the curve on any news that was 16-bit, instead focusing on the still strong NES and its lineup of 1990, anchored by Super Mario Bros. 3. American gamers waited and wondered when the day would finally come that the Super Famicom would become reality. At the start of 1991, more concrete information began to surface from Video Games and Computer Entertainment, Electronic Gaming Monthly, and GamePro magazines. These publications freely imported a Super Famicom from Japan and covered everything they could. Several mail-order import shops in the back pages of these magazines even advertised the Super Famicom for sale, though at a pretty hefty price. Nintendo announced that Super Mario Bros. 4 was now known officially as Super Mario World in the January 1991 issue of Nintendo Power. Only a few screenshots were shown. While in the February 1991 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, there was a full review of Super Mario World, including an explanation of every stage and power-up, with over 100 images of the game. These pages were actually printed before the new year, as lead times in the pre-internet days were months long. While these magazines were being shipped to readers, Nintendo announced at the 1991 Consumer Electronics Show that the Super Famicom would be coming to America by the end of the year, officially renaming the machine the Super NES. The news just kept coming over the spring and summer of 1991. The Super NES would arrive by the end of summer with a price tag of $199. Double that of the 8-bit NES, but on par with the other 16-bit machines. Super Mario World would be included for free, continuing the tradition Nintendo set with the NES and Super Mario Bros., beginning in 1987. A surprise that summer One that took some impact away from the upcoming Super NES was that Sega had created its own game, one that tried to outshine Super Mario World in every possible way: Sonic the Hedgehog. This new game would also be included with the Sega Genesis for free, and to increase the level of competition between the two companies, Sega cut the price of the Genesis by $50 to $149. Nintendo was not deterred. The Super NES with Super Mario World would debut in the USA in August 1991 for $199, alongside F-Zero and Pilot Wings, sold separately. The Super NES with Super Mario World sold out immediately following the first shipment to retailers. For weeks and months afterwards, stock was hard to come by in stores, with many shipments selling out the same day. Along with the standard promotion all new games receive, Nintendo went a bit further with Super Mario World, following in the footsteps of Super Mario Bros. 3. Nintendo developed and released an arcade system that gave the public a hands-on preview for what the Super NES was all about. The Nintendo Super System featured most of the games that would be available in 1991 in an arcade cabinet that was very similar to the PlayChoice 10 machines that featured NES games in an arcade setting with a pay-per-minute format. Nintendo also carried Super Mario World over to the world of Saturday morning cartoons. In September 1991, the Super Mario World cartoon show aired alongside Captain N, the Game Master, on NBC. Each episode featured Mario, Luigi, the Princess, and Yoshi as they fight Bowser in various adventures. The series was a continuation of the adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, which aired the year before. The show only had 13 episodes, but would appear in syndicated reruns in the 90s and released on DVD in 2007. While all gaming media had been covering Super Mario World for over a year by this point, with the game officially released, proper reviews of the American version started to appear. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave Super Mario World a score of 36 out of 40. The review praised the high points of the game, the hidden secrets, the massive amount of playable levels, and despite being the fourth game in the series, Super Mario World was kept fresh and original. GamePro magazine opted to pass on a traditional review of Super Mario World, as the game was included with the Super NES, instead focusing on all the tips, tricks, and secrets found in the game. Nintendo Power naturally gave the game the most coverage, with Super Mario World taking the cover of the September 1991 issue. Nintendo went further and released a second guide titled Mario Mania, which gave a recap of all of Mario's adventures over the last 10 years and a full stage-by-stage breakdown of Super Mario World. The final review score from Nintendo Power was a 4.5 out of 5 overall. In the UK, Europe, and Australia, the Super NES would go on sale the next year, in 1992. Publications in multiple countries covered Super Mario World. Many of these covered the game in full prior to 1992, as the Japanese import scene was much stronger outside of the USA. Computer and Video Games magazine gave Super Mario World a score of 96%, commenting that the game had amazing graphics and incredible gameplay. Superplay gave the game a 94%, calling it a landmark game, praising the play mechanics and versatility in Super Mario World. Across 1992 and 1993, the Super NES and Sega Genesis would duke it out. Kids would debate over whether Mario or Sonic was the superior game. Nintendo and Sega engaged in a price war where both machines would eventually fall to just $99. But one thing that stayed constant was Super Mario World, which would stay packed in with the Super NES for several years following 1991. The game is remembered not only as one of the finest Mario games around, but also the starting point into the world of 16-bit Nintendo, a memory that still lives on for many today. When we come back, the lasting legacy of Super Mario World 30 years on.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo. New Super Mario World. Created especially for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a bit more exciting, a bit more challenging, a bit more graphic, a bit more colorful, a bit more realistic, a bit more levels, a bit more secret, a bit more enemies, a bit more friends, a bit more sound, a bit hotter, a bit cooler, a bit weird, a bit more revolutionary, a bit more Mario, a bit more of what you want. It's 16-bit, and it's yours only if you get new Super Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
There's Dad over there.
Ooh, I just love all the new things Kmart has here.
Oh, I can see that.
So that's the new Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
What about it?
They say it has 16-bit technology, whatever that means.
Oh, I see. What else do they say?
That it has 3D graphics and digital stereo sound, and that Super Mario World is included.
Okay, we'll get it for him. So, how long did he work on you?
About 2 weeks.
Since 1990, fans and critics alike have praised Super Mario World as being one of the finest games of its time. Its popularity is unquestioned, and as such, Super Mario World reappears in remakes and reissues over the years, while the formula that made Super Mario World so great lives on in other games. In 1992, Nintendo and Gottlieb designed and released a pinball machine called Super Mario Bros. The artwork of the machine featured homages to all of the past 4 Mario games, with features from Super Mario World, including Yoshi, prominently presented. The game featured something new at the time, an LCD screen which showed the player's score, Mario running towards the castle, and other animated sequences. The goal of the game is to power up Mario by activating the letters that spell Super on the board, which then moves Mario forward towards the castle on the LCD screen. If you can clear 7 castles, then you've beaten the game. This pinball machine was such a success, it was followed up in 1993 with Super Mario Bros. Mushroom World, which is styled after Super Mario Bros. 3. Another mechanical Super Mario World arcade game was released in 1993. In this Super Mario World game, the player needs to throw as many balls as possible into the holes before the timer runs out. The game dispensed tickets depending on your score. In 1993, Nintendo did something that, at the time, was quite revolutionary. They re-released the original 8-bit Mario games with 16-bit graphics and sold it in one cartridge as Super Mario All-Stars. The game's graphics and sounds were recreated in a 16-bit style, with many elements from Super Mario World being used. This gave the older classics a new lease on life, and realigned them presentation-wise with Super Mario World. In 1994, Super Mario World was added to the cartridge for a total of 5 games in one. This cartridge replaced the standalone Super Mario World as the free pack-in game. It was included in the UK and Europe in 1995, but was never made available in Japan. On September 30th, 1997, Nintendo of Japan debuted the Nintendo Power downloadable game service. Customers could purchase a blank cartridge and then, at participating Lawson Combinis, download various games via the Lopi Network service. Blank cartridges cost 3,000 yen, while each game download cost 1,000 yen. Super Mario World was available on day 1 and remained on the service all the way to the end, when Nintendo Power was decommissioned on February 28, 2007. Nintendo Power cartridges with Super Mario World on them can still be found in Japanese used game stores from time to time. In 2001, Super Mario World was converted to the Game Boy Advance, with Super Mario Advance 2. The game features all the same levels as the original, but a few changes have been made. The main difference is that the game is solely for one player. Luigi is included in the game by allowing the player to switch between Mario and Luigi between stages. Luigi also retains his higher jumps that were seen in some, but not all, previous Mario games. The graphics were slightly altered to fit the smaller screen. Some new cutscenes were added, as well as some digitized voice effects. Power-ups were reconfigured, and the maximum number of lives was increased to 999. Super Mario World saw reissue again as one of the first games available on the Wii Virtual Console service. While no changes from the original were made, it was a chance for those who hadn't played the game in years, or have maybe never played the game at all, to experience it on current hardware. The Virtual Console version was first available in Japan in December 2006 and February 2007 in the rest of the world. The Wii Virtual Console service ended in 2019, though Super Mario World is still available on the Wii U and new 3DS and 2DS Virtual Console services, while Super Mario Advance 2 is also still available on the Wii U Virtual Console. On modern hardware, Super Mario World was made available as part of the Super Famicom and Super NES Classic Mini, and on the Nintendo Switch Online service starting on September 6, 2019. While officially the game is titled Super Mario World, it's still sometimes referred to as Super Mario Bros. 4. There never was a proper Super Mario Bros. 5 per se, though Super Mario World had several spiritual sequels. In 1995, Nintendo released Yoshi's Island. In the game, Mario as a baby is carried by Yoshi across Dinosaur Land to rescue Luigi from the clutches of Kamek. The game serves as a prequel to Super Mario World, because if Yoshi can't rescue Luigi, then the Mario Brothers will never grow up, meaning that in the future, Bowser can freely conquer Dinosaur Land. In Japan, the game was simply titled Yoshi Island, while in the rest of the world, it was known as Super Mario World 2, though for all remakes, the connection to Super Mario World was not used. Yoshi's Island in turn became its own series of games, with Yoshi's Story, Topsy-Turvy, Woolly World, and Crafted World appearing in later years, alongside various remakes and puzzle games starring Mario and Yoshi. As for Mario, his next adventure would be Super Mario 64 for the N64 in 1996. By this point, the word Brothers would be dropped from mainline Mario games, and the gameplay switched from 2D to 3D graphics. For a decade afterwards, it seemed that an all-new, classic, traditional Mario excursion would never happen again. In 2006, Nintendo surprised fans of the original Super Mario series with new Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo DS. This was followed by new Super Mario Bros. Wii in 2009, new Super Mario Bros. U, and new Super Mario Bros. 2, both released in 2012. In the Wii and Wii U versions, the game allows 4-player simultaneous play, with Yoshi playable in the game, coming the closest to the spirit of Super Mario World than any other game since 1991. In Super Mario Maker, released for the Wii U in 2015 and 3DS in 2016, players had the chance to design their own Mario stages for the first time, and a design scheme for Super Mario World was included. With Super Mario Maker 2, released for the Nintendo Switch in 2019, more flexibility in stage design was added. And with the Map Maker add-on, released in 2020, you could make your own 40-stage game that looks just like Super Mario World, the way you always felt it should be. We are still far from finished. When we come back, the in-game secrets of Super Mario World.
Escape to a world of enchantment. Run with the wonders of nature. Swim in our crystal clear waters. See things you've never seen before in the complete Super Mario World. With 78 levels, it's Mario's biggest adventure ever, now on Game Boy Advance. Come, spend time with us. Rated E for everyone.
Game Boy Advance.
マリオ、ヨッシーのコンビがゲームボーイアドバンスにやってくる。マントで空を飛んだり、ヨッシーに乗ったり、いろんなアクションで大冒険。ステージはなんと70種類以上。スーパーマリオアドバンス2。
Super Mario World is loaded with secrets to discover, as well as references to other Mario games that are both out in the open and well hidden. Obviously, the game is a continuation of Super Mario Bros. 3, as the recently defeated Bowser and the Koopalings show up to cause havoc. The connection is apparent as the sunken ghost ship is in fact one of the Koopa ships. The design of the ship does not correspond to any of the airships in Super Mario Bros. 3, so it does raise some interesting talking points. The ship contains the question mark ball, which were not found on ships, but in fortresses. Perhaps it crashed because carrying Bowser, the Koopalings, and the minions made it too heavy. And there are no other ships in Super Mario World, meaning it could be the last one Bowser had. There are a few differences between the Japanese version and those in the rest of the world. In Japanese, the Special World stages have only 4 names instead of 8, repeating the same names twice. They were called Fun, Shock the Staff, Specialist, and Championship courses, while the English version have the cheeseball names Gnarly, Tubular, Way Cool, Awesome, Groovy, Mondo, Outrageous, and Funky. The final Special World stage in Japanese has the grammatical error, "You are super player." The Special World has a few other secrets. If you can finish all the stages, the world map will change from summer to fall. The leaves will change colors, and the appearance of most enemies will also change. Finishing all of the stages and finding all of the exits will put a star next to your save file, letting you know you've done everything possible. If you stay on the Special World map and sit still for about 2 minutes, the music will change to a special mix of the original Super Mario Bros. Overworld theme. The Special World theme also has the bizarre distinction of having been used in a public service announcement for the Kanto Electric Safety Association as part of a series of TV and radio spots that took existing songs and sung safety instructions over them. There are still a few more differences between regions. One that must be mentioned is that in the Japanese version, Yoshi can eat dolphins. This was taken out in all the other versions. In the Japanese version, you get only 1 chance to complete the castle stages, but in the other versions you can re-enter castles by pressing L and R at the same time. Like all Mario games, you have a chance to build up a huge cachet of extra lives. There are many opportunities to do this, but in most stages you can always add a 1-up in an easy way. If the second digit of your star count matches the last 2 digits of the timer, you get a 1-up. For example, if you have 21 stars and your timer ends in 22, you get a 1-up. Green berries add 20 seconds to the timer. If your timer falls under 100 seconds, the music speeds up. You can get a green berry and raise it over 100, and the music will speed up again when it falls back under 100. You can repeat this several times. The green berries are only found in a few places, but be warned. Don't get a power-up at the same time. You might freeze up the game. When we come back, can we settle the debate once and for all? Which is the better game, Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World?
ミステリーアクションのマリオ&ヨッシー。目が光る。動きが面白い。メロディーが楽しい。ミステリーアクションのマリオ&ヨッシー。
It is an argument as old as time. Well, actually it's an argument that's 30 years old, but the question may persist for the rest of our lives. Is Super Mario Bros. 3 the greatest classic Mario game? Or is Super Mario World the best of all time? Both games were groundbreaking upon release. Both made the gaming world stop and take notice. Both are held up in high regard today. And when focusing on the 8 and 16-bit eras, these two games continually spark debate on which is superior. Let's try to break it down and pick apart the good and bad points of each, subjectively and objectively. With the power of the 16-bit Super NES, Super Mario World clearly delivers a better visual performance over Super Mario Bros. 3. More colors, more enemies on screen, multiple scrolling backgrounds, scaling, transparencies, and the list goes on. Super Mario World does things Super Mario Bros. 3 just can't. I know it seems a bit unfair to compare hardware designed years apart, but the graphical difference is clear for all to see. The music of Super Mario World is amazing. The extra sound channels add multiple layers and depth that the NES just cannot do. However, most of the stage music is a reworking of the same melody, which is altered depending on the environment. It does show off the flexibility of the sound processor, but as a musical composition, it ends up short and repetitive. The world map features a few different tracks, which is a nice change-up every now and then. In Super Mario Bros. 3, there are multiple different tracks for the overworld, underworld, airship, castle, and battle stages. Each of the 8 worlds on the map also has a unique tune. While the NES sound processor is quite limited, it is amazing to hear what it could produce and how much music could fit into one game. The stages of Super Mario World are varied and numerous. The length of the stages in Mario World are twice as long as those in Mario 3. Many of the stages have hidden areas that can only be found when using certain power-ups or by activating the Switch Palace to fill in colored blocks. Many stages have multiple exits overall. More is packed into each stage than the stages in Super Mario Bros. 3. The 8-bit Mario does pack a lot into each stage, and does take the NES to the limit, but that limit comes up short compared to what Super Mario World can bring. Both Mario World and Mario 3 have a huge amount of levels. Super Mario Bros. 3 wins out though, with 90 unique stages over Super Mario World with 72. Though Mario World counts finding 96 exits as completing the game. Both Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3 are amazing games. Since both were made by the same staff at around the same time, the two play very much in the same way. Both are excellent in this area, and one does not particularly outdo the other. Super Mario World came with a battery to save your place, and 3 slots so that more than one person could pick up and play anytime. In Super Mario 3, you always start from 1-1, no matter what. These are points that you can observe on the surface, clearly, but there are other factors that decide what makes Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World someone's favorite. Nostalgia plays a huge factor in this argument. If you were an early adopter of the NES and played through Super Mario Bros. 1 and 2, the wait for 3, as you'll remember, was excruciatingly long and cruel. Not only the wait for the game to arrive stateside, but the search for the copy of the game itself, which more often than not was sold out months after release. When you finally did get a copy of the game, it was nirvana. And with that transcendentalism of playing Mario 3 at home, experiencing each level, each secret, discovering the warp whistle, the coin ship, the white mushroom house, winning the roulette and card games, seeing each king transformed and then restored, left a permanent impression on that group of kids. If you were alive in 1990 and had Super Mario Bros. 3, you will never forget how you got it, when you got it, and what you were doing when you picked it up. It was the pinnacle of the NES era before 16-bit truly took over. It can never be erased from your memory. There is also nostalgia for Super Mario World. For many people out there, this too was your first Mario game. And experiencing everything for the first time, the sounds, the colors, the secrets, riding Yoshi, and reaching all 96 exits is equally unforgettable. Super Mario World was also the very first Super NES game for everyone. So along with the excitement of having the next Mario game came the excitement of entering the next generation. A new hardware set, a new controller, and a door to a new world of games in the future. Here is where nostalgia plays its role in separating Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World fans. For those of you who got Mario 3 first, the bar had been set pretty high. Yes, Mario World is a beautiful game, but that game really isn't so much different than Mario 3. Don't forget that Sega split the market. In the American timeline, between Mario 3 and Mario World, the Genesis and Sonic the Hedgehog had created an alternative that more than half of the NES audience migrated to. These converts to Sega may have never played Super Mario World in its time, while most everyone had an NES. For many, the choice of 16 bits was Sega or Nintendo, not and. Some of those people made the choice long before the Super NES was available. Regardless of the choice, the price of entry was pretty high. All of this lessened the impact of Super Mario World, which appeared in the shadow of the older Super Mario Bros. 3 and Sonic the Hedgehog. While on the release day of Super Mario Bros. 3, Nintendo essentially had a monopoly, and all eyes were focused in that direction. On the other side, the younger set, who may have started with Super Mario World, possibly never had an NES. As such, they were too young to have an experience of Super Mario 3 and all that went into it. Perhaps with Super Mario All-Stars, those who started on the Super NES got to first play Super Mario 3, or maybe later than that got to play the NES version, with fewer colors and shorter levels, compared to the standard set in their minds with Super Mario World. There are so many ways to look at it. I might be making things worse by going on and on and on, analyzing every minor detail. But let's work up a final scorecard. Super Mario World has in its favor better graphics, more layers of music, bigger, longer stages with more detail, and a battery backup. What goes against Super Mario World is repetitive music, less stages, no major changes to gameplay over Mario 3, and, at least in 1991, you had to pay $200 to get the game. Super Mario Bros. 3 has in its favor a breakthrough game, something like it never existed before. A lengthy soundtrack, more power-ups, mini-games, and secrets than in Super Mario World, and nearly zero competition. All the press, all the hype went to Mario 3 and nothing else. Going against Super Mario Bros. 3, you have short stages, the game looked out of date quickly in the face of new 16-bit games, and no battery backup. It makes it really hard to choose a definitive winner, but with everything presented here, I must say that, just by a hair's breadth, Super Mario World is the better game. The graphics have held up, it is very easy to pick up and play, then put down and come back to another time. Super Mario World has more to explore and more replay value. Though, with that in mind, Super Mario Bros. 3 certainly had a bigger impact and set the course of the series afterwards forever. When we come back, how 4 simple colors defined Super Mario World.
スーパーマリオのヨッシーでやってろ。伸びて伸びて伸びてくっつく不思議なパワー。それゆけヨッシー。
マリオワールドチョコだ。
そう、長崎屋から新登場スーパーマリオキャラクターカードが入って、ワオスーパーファミコンソフトも当たっちゃう。マリオワールドチョコ長崎屋から。
We're almost at the end of this video, a celebration of 30 years of Super Mario World. I really hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I've had making it. It was a fun ride, the history, the memories, the legacy. Now it's time to wrap it up. Let's end with one final observation, one I noticed long ago, and I think once you notice it too, you'll never forget it. When the Super Famicom was in its developmental stage, one of the many key features that would become associated with the machine was its controller. Never before had a controller had such an arrangement, with 4 face buttons. The buttons were colored red, yellow, blue, and green. These colors and the 4-button layout would become incorporated into the logo for the Super Famicom and Super NES in all regions except America. The logo conveyed the idea that the gameplay and the colors of the Super Famicom were a massive step up over the older 8-bit family computer. This 4-color scheme was adopted into Super Mario World as well. You can see the 4 colors in the logo, which has been used in every mainline Mario game since. In Super Mario World, to progress in the game and fully complete it, you must activate the exclamation mark boxes, which are red, yellow, blue, and green. There are also 4 kinds of Yoshis and Koopa Troopa shells in these 4 colors. All of these tie together the concept of the Super Famicom being a truly super machine with superior games, thanks to its 4 buttons and use of color. There is one more reference to this that has been front and center all along in the cover art of Super Mario World. Because Mario, in his most powerful state, wearing a feather cape while riding Yoshi, uses the same 4 colors: red, yellow, blue, and green. A statement that this Mario game was, is, and will forever be truly super.